Blues fan says, not only blame Justin, ban Justin.
I can hear it through the KTXF.
No, that was
YouTube. Oh, okay, cool.
Let us know if you guys can hear us.
Success.
That's weird.
So Blues fan says to ban Justin. We are back.
And we're back. All right, time for, just don't worry about it. Leave it as it is. Just go start your spiel.
You relax.
Start your spiel, dude. We're on a tight schedule this week.
I know. It's okay. Relax. We can move stuff around.
Relaxed.
Okay, so Brian can hear us now.
That video
Good.
quality. Holy crap.
I know. That's horrible. Remember, this is also on lower internet, this laptop. So
let me know if the video looks like shit to you guys too.
Yeah.
Just curious more on this.
Yeah. All right. Again, thank you guys for tuning in on for another edition of PO on KTXF-db, The Real, part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you to everyone tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Can they hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was me and him talking.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at the PO05. Like us on Facebook, the PO05. Be sure to check us out on our site, thepolive.com.
Cisco.
Be sure to also follow Edson and his show Down in the Valley on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at Down in the RGV as well. And his new website, downintheRGV.com. Lastly, check out our friends over at Dynamo Theory. You can follow them at Dynamo Theory on Twitter. And get all your Houston Dynamo and Dash news at dynamotheory.com.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Yes.
Hey, Cisco. Screw you, bro. Screw you.
So we are live. We got a bunch to talk about today. We've got abysmal showings by the U.S. women's under-20s.
I don't consider how they played was abysmal. They played better than the men's team.
How about just U.S. soccer in general? That's true.
You know, at least the women's team
thank you, Liam,
qualified for the World Cup.
We have somebody awesome in the chat. He's cheering for the Eagles.
That's
we're not getting into that this week. We got way too much to talk about, unfortunately.
Yeah, no Super Bowl talk this week. Sorry, guys.
We got the Rubio rumors. U.S. men's national team poor showing. Some MLS news. Some big former MLS player news. At least big to me.
Yeah.
We got the Miram deal. NWSL news. Good, the bad, all the ugly.
Plenty of ugly.
Yeah. Victor Ariza will be joining us.
Ariza.
Will be joining us at some point, probably around the second hour mark. Down the valley with Edson, with the clash with the Dynamo in preseason, and some other Dynamo news with open practice. We got quotes and a bunch of other stuff to talk about. It was fun. Kind of wish we had that in the beginning.
And of course, the big one.
Yeah, the big one, the Cubo deal. It was not shocking at all. How fast it happened was shocking. The deal itself was not.
Hey, Brian, we will get into that if you listen up to the RGV Down in the Valley segment later. Edson will give you some tips for first-timers at HEB Park.
Do that. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into it with the U.S. men's national team. They suck.
And let's move on. All right, cool. I'm just kidding.
We look for Sean. I wanted to bring up the roster.
I like to righty things, and there's no righty things on your table for the first time ever.
Oh, Edson, if you go in one of my bag over there, the black one, in the front part that's open, there's pens.
This is on your behalf. Looking right now, Brian's thing.
So U.S. men's national team took on Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
And I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. One, I opened that day. Two, it was such a boring match. I turned it off at halftime and recorded the rest of it and haven't watched it.
I only watched the second half, but that's okay.
Yeah, same here.
No, you watched most of the first half.
No, I did not. I actually only watched like 5 minutes.
I was putting together a desk, and he was on the couch at halftime.
Did you get it from IKEA?
No. My sister was getting rid of a desk, and and so I was putting it together. Finished at actually didn't finish at the end of the first half. I was kind of just exhausted from dealing with it.
Yeah.
So I went and sat on the couch to watch the second half, and then I had the energy to go actually do the finish the desk because screw the U.S. men's national team. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was bad, guys. I'm gonna bring something up real quick.
Well, to be fair, weren't there a lot of first timers as well?
A few, but some of them were also, they'd been there before, whether it was in a starting role or whether it was, off the bench. Some of these guys have been there before. So lineup, we did have CJ Sapong starting up top. Then you had Zardes Roldan from Seattle, Tyler Adams from New York Red Bulls, and Jordan Morris from Seattle. Will Trapp, Justin Morrow, Ike Opara, Walker Zimmerman. Is it Mike Polster? I think it's Mike Polster.
Yeah, it's Polster.
And Bill Hamid. Bill Hamid looked okay, but he looked scary on some shots.
Minus the one he had right before the end of the first half.
Yeah, I mean, he could have, put it this way, Bosnia could have won that match at least 2-0.
Yes. Defense
looked like garbage. Ike Opara was okay.
I think he was the most salvageable in the back line.
Zimmerman?
No, Opara.
I thought Zimmerman had moments. He looked good for the most part, but Opara is a clearance machine, and he showed that during that match. If it wasn't, him clearing one way, it was him clearing another, whether it was a header or him sprawling for a ball in the box clearing that cross that was destined for the back of the net. Oh, man, I mean, he just multiple times he just came up huge.
Yeah. By the way, my dad says hi to everybody here on the table.
What's up?
What's up, Papa Ochoa? Yeah,
and I'm not gonna lie, some of it was a little questionable. I didn't understand the Will Trapp call up. Go ahead. You got something.
Goalkeeper of the future, without a doubt, at this point is Zach Steffen. I just want to throw that out there. He looked good to me. He had moments, shaky moments, but it's his first U.S. men's national team match.
How long into the future? Because I'm excited, and no, it has nothing to do with his dad.
3 years. I think he's the keeper to beat for the next World Cup cycle. That's not to say there aren't keepers that will beat him, but he's the keeper to beat right now.
Depending on if he gets minutes in Bundesliga.
Well,
I'm excited.
He's got 4 years. If he can't get minutes in 4 years, then he's not going to make it anyways. So,
and then the subs, it was since it was a friendly, they used more than 3. Paul Arriola was subbed on. Ruben.
Arriola looked good.
Zach Steffen.
Ruben looked good, but he didn't really have anything to really show with what was going on.
Yeah, because wasn't he subbed in like in the 85th minute?
It was like the 83rd or 84th minute. I mean,
that's not enough.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, they say it usually takes you like 10, 15 minutes to get on with the groove.
It was 83rd. You just passed it up. 83rd for Will Trapp. Yeah, it was the 83rd minute.
And then I guess one of my questions is Juan Agudelo. How much longer are we going to be dealing with him? I don't think he offers a whole lot to the men's national team.
You want my honest opinion? It depends on who they bring in as coach.
Speaking of that, before we move on to the next part, do you think this coach is going to be very pro MLS like Bruce Arena, or do you think
the next coach? You mean not
yes,
not
that's what I mean.
Saracen?
Sriracha.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Weird. Looked like he belonged with Bosnia Herzegovina. No,
I was telling Sean that he looks like that generic manager you choose in be a manager career mode in FIFA.
For FIFA, yeah. No, and he really did. I mean, he looked like as generic a manager as you could come up with. It's tough to say because it's going to depend on who they get. The coach has a lot of options.
For me, it should be more about like who is the best.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
call
what
out your
comes.
Philly guy.
Yeah. No, that's on both of them. One, not both Philly guys, but
no, not CJ.
Number one, don't ask me how to say his name because I still to this day cannot.
Menuinen.
No, it's pronounced differently.
It is pronounced differently.
Yeah, but in the 53rd minute,
I think it's Menuinen.
He is the starter for Bosnia.
Menuinen.
But misses a clear open shot on a PK in the 53rd minute, and one that had Bill Hamid on the total opposite side of the net. It wasn't even close.
No. That penalty was against.
Well, it was against the U.S.
He wasn't talking about the. Were you talking about the penalty?
The PK.
Yeah. I mean, he made.
But the goalkeeper was not Hamid.
It wasn't Hamid. It was Stefan.
Yeah.
No, because it happened.
It was.
No,
Stefan.
was it Stefan?
He was
That's
subbed
right.
in
He
at
was subbed on a
halftime.
half. Okay.
It was Stefan. He guessed the wrong way.
Yeah.
But
either way,
it didn't matter. Well, but I mean, it was just as bad either way.
And can we talk about that penalty? Actually, the actual
penalty
foul
that wasn't a penalty.
Okay, because
first of all, there should have been called a foul against Bosnia
correct,
before that
because he shoved the defender to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you could shrug off a defender, but you can't throw him to the pitch like that.
Yeah, because that's what it was.
I guess it's eye of the beholder, but it almost looked like that foul happened right outside the box.
No, for me it was inside. It was inside for me, but. Like I said, there's a difference between shoving, which you just make like a little small movement like that, or using your shoulder. But this guy just went like fully extended his arm out to push the defender to the ground. I mean, I don't know how the ref did not see that, but did see.
Hashtag pro. No, I don't even think that was pro.
No, I don't think it was. Oh, by the way,
Saracen apparently.
Yeah. So Alex says Dunseth totally ruined my afternoon. He says he mentioned that there's an outside shot. Saracen could get the full-time job.
That's
about as good a shot as Hope Solo actually getting the USSF presidency. Which, speaking of,
yes,
about a segue.
So the U20s, real quick, did lose. The U20s women's did lose in PKs to Mexico.
However,
Hope Solo.
No. However,
where do you want to go with this?
Even with the loss, they have now qualified for the Women's World Cup.
Correct.
The U20 under World Cup, which was awesome to see. So congratulations, U.S. Women's National Team.
And with that, there's a huge discussion with that, which we won't have time to get into around women's soccer.
Not this week.
But
soon, very soon.
Soon. Where'd you put the Hope Solo thing?
There's a link in the actual show notes.
So we're just going to skip our first break because we can go 20 minutes deep without taking a break.
Well, we could take a break and come back and do Hope Solo. I've got space in here for us to do this. Let's just do our breaks on normal times.
Okay. So we got about 15 seconds.
So we've teased the Hope Solo thing, which is perfect. Yes. So just explain that she she filed a complaint yesterday.
I got you.
Okay, we'll do it.
Stop talking.
Do it.
You are listening to the P on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. When we get back, we will talk about Hope Solo and her complaint that she filed with the U.S. Olympic Committee. And I will read the entire statement from her in its entirety and see what you guys think about it. I will open up the text line as well. So when we get back, that's what we will talk about, and it will be fun.
Yay.
Peel on KTXF-db, The Real, a Texas Sports Review Media Network. Listen to us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time on KTXF-db, The Real, via the TuneIn app on your smartphone or via tunein.com. which is Josh. Big breath. Do it.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the PO on KTXF-db, The Real, part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you to everyone tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give the video a like, share it, subscribe to our channel. Before we left, we were talking about Hope Solo and her
United States Olympic Committee.
So Hope Solo has called for accountability of U.S. soccer towards by the U.S. Olympic Committee. And like I said, I'm going to read this in its entirety. Look, I'm going to be the first one to say before I read this that I don't have any respect for her because of things that she's done in the past and the way she's treated her team, her teammates, coaches, and U.S. soccer as a whole. But I do have a ton of respect after she wrote this.
Well, I mean, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day.
That was good.
That was solid. That's like some...
And now you need to read it.
That's like one of those daily quote things you see on Facebook.
Kung Fu Panda quote of the day.
All right, guys. It is a little lengthy, but it deserves to be read. I joined the U.S. Soccer presidential race because I could no longer watch the U.S. Soccer Federation sidestep its responsibility to the people it was created to serve. As a player, I experienced the USSF's profit before progress approach for more than 20 years, and during this campaign, I have spent countless hours talking to people at every level of the sport who all say the same thing: the Federation has failed them. The campaign has also made me acutely aware that the USSF's conflict of interest and other governance transgressions are so alarming that we can't wait for results of the presidential election to take action. U.S. soccer has become blinded to its fundamental obligation to develop soccer in America. As our national governing body, the USSF is in blatant violation of the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. Today, I have called upon USOC to hold U.S. soccer accountable with the submission of a formal complaint under Section 220527 of the Stevens Act. Because of the power, prestige, and status and money flowing from the Federation's alliance with MLS and Soccer United Marketing, the USSF's priority has become protecting and building the MLS at the expense of our youth and women's game at the place in the global game and our place in the global game. The Federation seems to believe that success should be judged not by how well amateur, youth, or women's and non-MLS men's professional soccer are doing, but how well MLS is performing and how much money the Federation's partnership with some is generating. The Federation has also made the world's game inaccessible to so many here in America. In our current system, we are letting kids fall through the cracks, excluding so many from our vast talent pool and making both playing and coaching widely unaffordable. In today's system, I would have been missed, and I would not have had the opportunity to pursue my dreams. What have we become? Our country is built on hope and opportunity, yet through our failed system, we are turning our backs on those who can help us achieve the success we all want. It has also become even more apparent that the Federation has not only been deaf to calls for reform, but it's actively working against them. Why else would the Federation's current president and the most powerful member of its board of directors have put their support behind Kathy Carter, who has been employed by MLS or some in various capacities since MLS's founding in 1995?
Can you repeat that line because it's brilliant?
Board of directors who have put their support behind Kathy Carter, who has been employed by MLS and some in various capacities since MLS's founding in 1995. This is just one of many questions USSF must answer to, along with others surrounding the brazen and unchecked conflicts of interest the commercial partnerships with some has created. My bid for presidency is built on a pledge to fight for the betterment of the game with the same commitment, tenacity, and willingness to go against the grain that has made me the best goalkeeper in the world. This action is a necessary step in keeping that pledge. I encourage you all to read the complete document submitted to USOC. It contains important information about issues that many voters and members of the soccer community are likely not aware of, yet are issues that have a profound impact of all of us. Let's take back our sport.
Cisco asked if you can repeat all that again, but this time in Hope Solo's voice.
No.
No. Yeah. Okay. Just thought we'd clarify that one. So, long and short of it, she's filed a complaint with the USOC, the Olympic Committee, and basically she is just trying to get some. eyeballs from the U.S. Olympic Committee standpoint on what's going on. I was listening to Counterattack on the way here, and they had a lawyer on, and they seem to think that part of this is just to continue what Ricardo Silva from NASL / soon to be NPSL,
yes,
Miami FC. What he has kind of started with all the different lawsuits he's filed in so many different places in different ways against USSF. And it's not really about pro rel at this point. It's actually about it's really about trying to strip USSF of the power that they have and trying to force them to enact change and reform going forward. A lot of what she says is very on point. The part that really caught me and kind of made me go, "Oh man," is when she said, "And my bid for the presidency." And I'm like, at this point, you just turned it political. You could have left it as a brilliant moment, possibly even a career-defining moment for somebody who has had a lot of negative ones, could have had a very positive one. But by throwing in my bid for the presidency, I feel like it just turns it into a completely political move and really retracts from the power of what this was on the surface.
I really doubt that she would have put something like this if it wasn't going to benefit her.
Well, the thing is right?
Because why did it take so long for her? Like, because she announced her presidency a while ago, and why now?
Brian, the violation she specified was specifically in the long form version of the complaint that's 38 pages. We will throw the link up on Twitter. I've got it actually saved somewhere in the article. If Justin can pull that up from the show notes, that'd be great. And then tweet that out.
Yeah.
But that basically...
Tweet it out. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, actually, I don't think he even knows where to find it. Oh, you can pull up the show notes. Just go to drive.google.com and then change accounts. But basically, the complaint centers around the Stevens Act, which just says that they should all operate the national governing bodies, which is what USSF is, which is what any governing body over a professional sport in this country is an NGB. That they're operating not in the best interest of they're supposed to operate in the best interest of amateurs, all either gender, all genders, all races, etc. And those who have challenges in being able to play their sport, they should still attempt to make inroads to build the game up for them as well. And basically, so ultimately, what the complaint really says is just that it's.
All right.
So you can't do it in the YouTube chat, sorry. But the complaint basically, the full complaint is 38 pages. It's definitely a ton of legalese. But you can go view the full complaint, all 38 pages of it, and feel free to come back into YouTube chat in the next hour and tell us what it says. It's not worth reading, to be honest with you. I mean, it is if you're interested in legalese, but it's all legalese. It's all about referencing point A in Article C, Section 16, whatever. But it's it's a lot of roundabouts type of things. You're just really making it hard for me to see what's happening in chat.
Don't worry about it.
So, but that's what it says essentially. Just that they're in violation of the Stevens Act, which is all about getting access to the sport for everybody. Yeah, you're welcome, Brian.
There we go. All right. So
Darby, just so you know, that is not true. We've had Jen Cooper on this show, and I'm going to leave it at that.
No, and honestly, we're pro women's soccer here. I mean, we want the growth of the sport, and we feel. Even if you just look at the NWSL level, I don't think the women get a fair shake in a league here. I mean, you have a team that folded, which we'll get into later.
That, Cisco, that right there is the link to the article, and then the article itself has a link to the actual. That's a link to her presidency site, which has the article itself, which links to the actual final complaint in it.
Yeah,
which is fine. You're welcome, Darby. We're happy to be here, and we know you were just fun, and we just wanted to clarify that. I don't want anybody in chat to think that we're
especially the newcomers.
No,
yeah, especially the newcomers.
So we got about 5 minutes till we hit our next break. You did say we had. Well, since we're talking about women's soccer, let's go ahead and do NWSL, and we'll switch up the MLS stuff.
5 minutes is not enough time.
No,
we'll just have to flex it to the next break, which is fine. So we can go ahead and start teasing it. So let's go ahead and just do this. We'll talk about the two players that the Dash have re-signed this past week and a half. So first, they re-signed Amber Brooks to a new contract. Amber Brooks is a defensive midfielder / deep lying center midfielder, and also can play center back. And I think that we may actually see her slot in as a center back this season. And they also re-signed everybody's favorite leading lady, Kalia Ohai.
JJ Watt likes this.
No, hold on. Kalia Ohai, who is dating JJ Watt, who is Kalia Ohai's boyfriend. Just so we're clear. Had to make sure to get both sides of that.
Soon to be husband. If he
I'm
doesn't,
I'm not gonna tease anything that I don't know.
Right now, let's be completely honest. The Zach Ertz and Julie Ertz, they're the power couple right now in
I'll be honest, that would push for power. Well, the only difference being that, yes, exactly. You're welcome, ladies. The only difference being that Kalia needs to make the U.S. Women's National Team a little bit more. But I think on the comparing both equally, I think they're about on par. I just think Julie's a little bit higher on.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Kalia right now, because
Megan and I we're talking about this.
No, Cisco, sorry. Not enough for me.
Dom Dwyer did not win a title with SKC, correct?
They won that one title, and that might have been his first. I don't know. Cisco, it's on you. Find out.
Because I was going to say, then at that point, the Sydney Leroux, Dom Dwyer still gets topped because they both have titles.
That doesn't mean anything to me, though. That really doesn't.
It doesn't a power couple.
Meh. Rings are not the end all be all.
I think that entire
did Dom Dwyer win a title?
Later, Megan. Thank you for checking, watching, listening.
Cisco, it was if Dom Dwyer has won a title with SKC, not the Open Cup, the MLS title.
It basically was Dom Dwyer in the lineup or in the, was he part of the SKC organization when SKC won that title? They didn't win another one after that or before that. Not recently.
Still got.
I'm with you, Darby, 100%. The only time I ever will watch Dom Dwyer and cheer for him is when he's playing for the U.S. men's national team.
Which should be more, I honestly
and you still have a little bad taste in your mouth, right?
I don't want to talk about what's in my mouth. That's disgusting.
So what do you want to hit up when we get back from break? MLS news?
We were going to continue into NWSL stuff, and then we'll talk about MLS. NWSL is going to come first this week. I'm championing for women this week, damn it.
Alex, we agree. We totally agree. The whole reason we're not really getting into it that deep is we can literally spend 2 hours talking about women's soccer and where it should be and where it isn't.
So Cisco says, yes, he did win a title with SKC. He scored the goal to actually knock us out of the ECF, Eastern Conference Final.
Yes, actually, Megan, yes, I did get a Dom Dwyer U.S. kit because at that time he was the best player for the U.S. in the Gold Cup.
All right, it's time to go to break.
Yes, sir. Sure. You guys are listening to the P on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. When we get back, we'll talk more about NWSL, some of the news surrounding that, and talk about Boston Breakers and that failure.
Correct. And the dispersal draft.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about the MLS tidbits and trades and moves and other assorted things and rumors that have popped up that people should be aware of.
Yep.
Bueno, soy Alejandro Mayor y me estás escuchando por ADP.
Bring back the dog.
Bring back the dog. Thank you guys for tuning in.
If we reach 20 likes, or 10 likes, we'll bring the dog back.
Oh, my God, Megan.
Oh, snap.
Megan's on the couch tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in to tonight's episode of The Peel, part of the Texas Sports. Look, Megan's got me all flustered now because now she's sleeping on the couch. Thank you guys for tuning in to tonight's episode of The Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you, everyone that's tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give this video a like. Go ahead and share it and subscribe to our channel. Before we left, we were talking about...
Hold on. If you're watching on Facebook, if we get 5 more likes, we will bring the dog back. My sister says bring the dog back.
I love how Brutus is the pawn in all this. It's great.
We only need 1 more like. We're up to 9 on YouTube. We're there pretty quick, guys.
Like I said, before we went on break, we were talking NWSL. What do you want to do first? Do you want to do well, I guess the Breakers would be it. So the Boston Breakers will be folding, ceasing to exist before the start of this season.
Oh, God. We just got all the likes that we needed to get on the Facebook one. Holy cow, people. We're up to 12. Where's the dog? Get the dog.
Brutus.
He's got to come back.
Oh, he's bringing the toy too. Oh, shit.
He's a good boy.
He's our 4th host this week until other things happen.
But hey, Patrick tuned in today. They folded. And the way their players found out was just, honestly, it was a shame. It was
so I gotta chime in on this. I mean, I understand the frustration that a lot of people have about the whole them sending an email to everybody in lieu of calling everybody personally and saying everything. The only drawback is it's notorious, regardless of how much you think the players can keep their mouths shut, whatever. If you call one player and you tell them, chances are somebody's going to find out before you actually tell them over the phone. And it's just terrible for a player to find out that way. It sucks to find out via email, but at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do as a league. You don't have 21 people in that league office that you can call 21 players. You just don't.
No. What I would have liked to see, though, is instead of an email, say, hey, we're going to have a meeting. Come meet here. Don't say what the meeting is for.
Well, but at that point, the rumors were already rampant. I mean, that's just exacerbating the issue for the players.
But I feel like it's almost like if you get fired. You're not going to get fired 9 out of 10 times through a phone call. You're going to be brought into an office. You're going to be sitting down in front of your boss, and your boss is going to tell you that you are no longer employed.
How many? But this is different. This is like layoffs. Layoffs, those almost always happen via email. They don't happen in an office. This was a full team layoff. This wasn't just one person being laid off. It's 2 people being laid off. So layoffs, when they're large like that, they happen via email because they don't want word to get spread out like that.
Or sometimes
regardless, the word was going to get spread out in any.
No, I know, but they didn't want the players to find out separately, is what I'm saying.
Well, no, but you still wouldn't have. If you would have just sent an email, not saying that the team was folding, but hey, there's a meeting, and then you find out, then it was going to be out public knowledge anyway.
Yeah.
After the meeting.
I wish they would have sent an email that says, hey, we're going to have a conference call about the Boston Breakers situation. As a player, we expect you to be on this conference call at XYZ time, and then that way they could.
Terry hit it right on the head, and that's the point I'm making.
I agree with Terry on that. Yeah. It would have been far more respectful. The way they did it was not necessarily. It was disrespectful, but it is a common practice in the corporate world.
And Alex, other people surrounding that team lose their
staff don't have a job. Christine Lilly does not have a job anymore.
Alex, I'm not saying that this is more just for players over staff. I mean, it's everybody. Call everybody into a room and talk to them.
I mean, at once.
Your organization is not that big. You can't pull them into a big meeting room. Dynamo do it all the time. Pull them in, say, hey, this is the situation. But
did they already shutter the offices though? That's the other question to ask. I mean, I would think not, because they just drafted a week before that. Okay,
what would have made this worse if whoever was running it sent it through his phone email and couldn't even sit down at the computer in the office.
No, absolutely.
Like, it's the handling of all this, and it stacks on top of other issues with NWSL. The fact that the players found out about their schedules through a tweet is a failure on the league side. And they should have waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. And apparently there was a buyer for the team. It just fell through at the last minute. Yeah. But I think NWSL in their right could have been... This is exactly where I was going with this, Harry. Harry hit it right on the head. Why couldn't the league step in and cover for the team for a year, give the league additional time to find an answer? Different league, but the NHL, when the Phoenix Coyotes were having financial problems, NHL stepped in and essentially owned the team till they could find another investor, another buyer, whatever. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me an NWSL club is going to be that expensive to run for a year. To have somebody prop it up, such as the league, until they found a buyer, whether that buyer was in the beginning of the year or middle of the year or 3/4 into the year. You can't tell me that the operating costs would have been that much that NWSL couldn't have carried.
Alex says, because there's only 3 teams that actually run a profit.
That's not actually 100% true. I mean, it is close, but it's not 100% true. Orlando also was very close. I believe they actually were slightly above breaking even, which is technically pulling a profit.
So, okay, then let me ask you this then, Sean, because I know you were getting with Victor. What would you have liked to see the league step in and essentially just prop up the team until they could get a buyer, whether that be halfway through the season, 3 quarters, or just for the year, just like the Phoenix Coyotes did in NHL?
Repeat your statement. I'm sorry, people are blowing up my Twitter now all of a sudden.
I was saying...
Y'all couldn't have done that 30 minutes ago when we didn't have a show going on. Thanks.
No, my issue is why couldn't the league prop up Boston?
Well, that's what Harry just said. Why couldn't the league step in? But that's the thing. They already did. They propped them up last season. Last season, they were operating at a loss, and the league covered the debts of the Boston Breakers for the entire season.
See, I did not know that.
So they already stood them up for an entire season so that they could continue. The problem was the expectation. They had a potential investor lined up before the second one that came up. They had one lined up, and that investor unexpectedly pulled out at the last second.
Actually, Alex, I do think the Dynamo would pull everybody in the team in a room if Tillman bought them.
I don't think they would need to, because I'm pretty sure Tillman would demand they do that, and they would probably do it at Toyota Center just to piss off Chris Caddy.
It'd be a big party.
It would be fantastic. Oh, dude, we would be partying.
Oh,
are you kidding me?
Hell yeah!
Oh, that would be amazing. But let's not divert.
Are you kidding? That last one.
That's the
Brian.
other Lockridge. Yeah, that's gotta be Brian.
Tillman Fertitta.
No, he knows who Tillman Fertitta is. It's not Fertitta, it's Fertitta.
I owe you now.
Yeah, Darby, you can explain it to him. Thanks.
Owner of the Rockets, owner of everything Landry's.
But let's divert back to NWSL and let's actually give the ladies the respect they deserve. Stop diverting to men's other sports that don't even matter.
And with the folding of this team, it led to the dispersal draft, which was today.
Correct. That was today. That was this afternoon or this morning at like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 a.m. I don't know. I had trouble following it because, of course, I had work that was really busy today. But the long and short of it, the Dash, the way that this dispersal draft was handled was really, really crappy. So the 6 teams that qualified for the playoffs, they all got 6 teams. 6 teams? 6 teams, something like that. 6 teams that qualified for the playoffs. Or I should say, the 6 teams that did not qualify for the playoffs. Let's start there. They all had 2 envelopes that were added to a bowl. The other teams that made the playoffs, they all had 1 envelope that was added to a bowl. So you had teams that had higher selections that made the playoffs than those that didn't make the playoffs. Those that finished second to last ended up with the 6th overall pick in this draft. Not that it matters, because I actually really, really like our pick. But I'm looking at it from the face of it before the dispersal draft happened, and it just felt like it was yet another attempt by the league, another sad moment by the league where they handle things in a way that really
goes against common sense.
It's not that it goes against common sense. It's just it reeks of another FIFA, right? How does FIFA handle the World Cup draw? You have balls with names in them that are drawn out of a bowl. I mean, there's just. Exactly, Alex. 100% agree with you. It's terrible. It's stupid. I seriously, whoever in the NWSL front office came up with that, and to be fair, they don't have a commissioner right now, so maybe that's part of the reason why it came to that. But at the same time, it's just a sad attempt to try to make things right, and then they failed miserably. But who cares? Because ultimately, we ended up with Kaya Simon, who actually has a chance to come back to the Dash. Maybe not by the time this year begins, but she might be back with the Dash mid-season, or even for a playoff push. She's coming back off an injury that she got surgery for, that's bugged her for the last few years. She said 9 years it's been bugging her. So it's incredible. She retired, quote unquote, from soccer or from NWSL soccer, but she has a chance to come back. And for the Dash to be able to get her at the 6th pick overall, I think that speaks to what they believe, that she will possibly come back. And if nothing else, they at least have her rights to purchase her if she ever does come back to the NWSL. Thanks, Callow. Thanks. Harry, I completely agree with you. That would have been the smart way to do it. Just use the original draft order for this season minus Boston. You wouldn't have had to change a single thing. And the thing was they had trades anyways. So, I mean, it wasn't an equal way to allot for teams that struggled in the NWSL season. You gave teams that made the playoffs a slightly less probability. I mean, we're talking minimal less probability. when you're talking the number of envelopes that were in there, it just became, it was an atrocity of how they handled it. Really, it was. And for 20 players to have their professional lives, their job basically put on the line and then handled with that kind of a draw and that kind of a dispersal draft. I mean, it was just, it was frustrating for me as a fan to see. And just another one of those things where I look at it and I'm just like, NWSL just continues to come up short, and at some point they've got to fix it. They've got to deal with it.
Cisco's last comment. We got about 5 more minutes about 4 more minutes till we go to break. This has been my whole issue though with NWSL. The way of running things is so ridiculous. Like, they make it harder than what it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with U.S. soccer. It's the same thing with MLS. Open up your contract number so everybody can talk about it. Stop hiding in the shadows with everything. Sorry, Ed, I'm about to go on a rant.
Yeah, go.
Okay? Make everything known. Where's your transparency? You're all about that, but you have none. And that goes from MLS, NWSL, and U.S. soccer. I mean, you know how hard it is anymore to be a fan of these three? I mean, don't get me wrong. I like supporting the product on the field, but I don't like supporting the leagues. It's an atrocity to the sport.
Alex, just that's actually probably going to Yale Averbush. She deserves it. She's going to be a fantastic commissioner.
Do you believe that maybe the problem here is that U.S. Soccer and WSL and MLS, they're too busy about thinking like how to do things differently than the Europeans?
It has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. What it comes down to is point blank, simple. He just wrote it on the sheet.
That's what it comes down to.
Dollars.
Down to dollars.
Who pays for the MLS budget? Really, it comes out of some's pocket. Who controls broadcast rights in the U.S.? Some. Who controls broadcast rights for World Cup? Some. Who controls money that goes to the USSF? Some. Ultimately, at the end of the day, until some is out of the executive board, until some is out of broadcast rights for this country, until some is out of the game entirely, this country, this federation, women in general, in terms of women in soccer, are going to continue to struggle and continue to be treated as second-class citizens in a sport where they demand better and they demand more, not because they are women, but because they are playing better than the men right now, because they are doing more than the men right now, because they continue to earn trophies, continue to earn rings, continue to win World Cups, continue to show that they are better all around, and yet they are treated less and less and less.
Yes.
The men don't play on turf.
No. Mm-hmm. Unless it's MLS.
It's still not the U.S. men's soccer team.
Kalos is a troll.
He is totally a troll. He's taking up for Gabe.
Donna Crack, we are saving the best for last when it comes to Dynamo talk because we got a lot of it. We got interviews, we got all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're actually waiting for Victor to get in here. Actually, he should be in here shortly, and then we'll start talking about some of that
teams.
That would
co-ed?
be actually really bad.
As in co-ed?
Really, really bad.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really bad.
Oh, so 3/4 of my team is going to be women.
The entire thing would be women. Yeah.
I would stick a few men in there.
Who?
Pulisic's getting a start.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, other than Pulisic?
How far along are we talking? Because Josh Sargent, Weston McKennie, they're all at least going to be on the squad.
Well, yeah, they could be on the bench.
Hashtag fix women's soccer. Actually, Cal Lewis,
Yes.
That's the first thing that's not troll that I agree with.
I mean, the fact is, and it's not, let's be clear, it's not women's soccer that's the problem. It's those that are running women's soccer,
Yes.
those that are running the organizations that are for the clubs and organizations. It's the people that are in charge. That's the
Yes.
problem with women's soccer right now.
MLS news when we get back.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about.
All right. You guys are listening to the P on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. When we get back, we got MLS news, some big news regarding players, former MLS players. Victor Ariza should be on either that segment or next segment.
Yeah, we'll get him in next. He'll be in.
Sweet. But that
Victor,
will be,
if you're in your car listening, come on in.
but that will be next.
Hey, this is AJ De La Garza, and you're listening to The Pill.
think we got 7. We were at 6 or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in to another to tonight's episode of The Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you everyone tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give this video a like, share it, subscribe to our channel. And before we left, we were getting ready to talk about some MLS news. And joining us, we got Victor.
Hey.
Who knows everything about MLS and the Dynamo.
I don't know about everything.
So that means I can leave now, right?
Nah, you're still here.
The smart guy's here. I can leave.
No, but go ahead and hit up on some MLS stuff.
So there were a couple things that happened the last few days. We've had Mix Discarud and a really surprise signing get signed to Manchester City over in the EPL. We also had, tied to Manchester City, of course, because they're both coming from New York City FC, Jack Harrison transferred to Manchester City FC in the EPL and then turned around and loaned to Middlesbrough. Mm-hmm. He already had his jersey picture today with Middlesbrough, so that did not take long at all. It's kind of reminiscent of one we're going to talk about a little later. And then we also had Justin Miram to Orlando City in exchange for Garber Bucks. Mm-hmm. Who put Bucks? I had G Money down there for a reason.
No, you must have changed it.
I must have had Bucks on the second line and not realized that. I had G Money, just so people know. That was pretty awesome. And then, and I'm only reading these real fast so we can discuss them all kind of together. Yeah. And then Frisco traded, and I don't remember how the trade happened or who they traded. They traded that top allocation spot for something.
Uri Rosell used to be with Sporting Kansas City.
That's what it was. That one right there.
They brought him back to the league today.
That's why Victor's here.
Yeah.
And then there's some rumors that are going around, but we'll get to those in a minute.
I guess my biggest one was when we were at open practice.
Cisco says nice jacket, by the way, Victor.
Oh, thank you.
He's a huge athlete.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it was right when the players had gotten done practice and they were walking outside and autographs and it popped up on my phone. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
your first reaction on Facebook? Holy, it was like you were dopely excited. I mean, it was crazy.
It's not that I was excited. I mean, the guy went to Sweden and just rode away into the sunset. Now all of a sudden he's in Man City.
Well, but the thing is now they've seen him, right?
Yeah.
So the advantage to a team having a affiliation with another team over in the EPL is those players are going to get seen. Players that have a shot that are decent, they're going to have opportunities overseas, and and it gives them an opportunity into. Thank you, Andres. It opens up an opportunity for New York City FC to really actually draw in some extra talent that MLS would not normally draw in.
Yeah. Oh, I had it open.
So actually, I was curious how everybody felt about Miram going to OCSC.
Dude, that team is getting stacked with talent. What do they got now? Kleshin. They got Coleman.
So he says stacked with talent. What he really means is stacked with old players.
Well, their midfield's redone.
Yeah.
They got,
but that doesn't always work for a team, though.
They have Dom Dwyer, who's recovering, but
well,
I think it helps because they're going about it a different way.
They are.
Initially, they went with Kaká, who was a top player, highest paid player in the league.
Yep.
And it didn't get him anything in 3 seasons other than
Correct.
worldwide branding.
Injuries.
Which I mean, that
I think they've realized that you can't go after the senior, retiring European players,
right? But obviously
anymore.
Kaká was brought in because of the impact that he had.
Failed to mention one.
It's not on my list. That's why.
Oh,
Zlatan.
Zlatan.
Well, I mean, until it's confirmed, I'm not going to confirm it on air.
Yeah, but
I said there's more rumors to come. You didn't
true.
let me go. Anyways, continue, Victor. Sorry, he's
No,
a jerk for interrupting you.
obviously the Kaká move was made in the same way the Beckham move was made by LA. It was more of a marketing move off the field, helping them establish themselves. And now I think you're seeing them make a turn into the sporting side of things and try to actually contend. And the way it's looking, I mean, I think they make the playoffs.
Oh, I definitely think they'll be a mid-playoff team. I don't see them being.
It's not as hard in the East, though. Let's be fair.
That's the other thing. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, you have Toronto, Atlanta, and everybody else. Like you're competing with those 2 teams. Those are the 2 teams that you have to worry about. Mm-hmm. But I look at it on the other side. You have these. The fans at Columbus who are buying an outrageous number of season tickets this year, and all your players are leaving. You bring in a guy in Zardes, who I don't think is going to fit in real well up there. He doesn't really have much around him at this point. And you think that's going to help? And, I feel bad for the fans up there for the simple fact that that's all you got.
they're making some moves here. Let me pull it up. I know they just unveiled today a signing, a South American guy, 19 years old, young designated player. He's going to be their third designated player, and
who's their other ones?
Higuain.
He's still. I thought he was retiring this year.
No, he's
His-
at
it's
least.
his
I think
brother.
he's retiring next year.
Okay.
Higuain and
It's a Portuguese guy, defender.
Oh yeah,
Pedro,
I can't think of his name.
Pedro Santos.
Yeah.
So this guy, Milton Valenzuela, is the guy that comes in. He's from Newell's Old Boys, on loan, but with an option to purchase. And then they're buying down Jonathan Mensah's salary. So that's how they're rebuilding themselves a little bit differently, and they're letting guys walk like Kamara and Justin Merrim. And honestly, good for Columbus for doing that. At least, you know, letting those guys walk and letting them go elsewhere, and we'll see what happens. But I don't know.
It
That
kind of reminds
bad
me
for
of
that
it. Kind of
city,
reminds me of
though.
the Dynamo from a couple of years ago. You know, with the shift from Coyle to Wilmer, there were players that they allowed to leave or that they traded away that they felt were done. Not necessarily players that had aged out of the system, but like Brad Davis left, right? Brian Ching retired, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on for a while, but. Bobby Boswell was traded. Now, that was still during the Kinnear years, but it was at the very end of his years, right? So,
yeah, I think that was more of that shift from Kinnear to Coyle, and
it continued after Coyle. But
So-
that's all I'm saying. It just kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
With these moves, I mean, just these three, with Miram going to Orlando, who makes out better, Columbus or Orlando? I would have to say Orlando.
It depends what you do with the money, right?
it depends what happens with this kid. If this kid's a real
That's
deal,
true.
he's
That's
a
true.
he's a player. I mean, but again, it all revolves around the uncertainty of what's going to go on in Columbus. I mean, is this team going to stay for the long haul, or is this going to be a 1-year deal?
It's funny though because the ownership doesn't even know, right? They're not even sure if they're going to stick around. They're now re-engaging in talks with the local, local city council and government. And
I don't know if
everything.
you caught it on Jason Davis' show, but they had the leader of the main guy of the Save the Crew movement.
He's had him on frequently lately.
And apparently, like, almost not every, but they got a bunch of small businesses and stuff that are jumping on board to try to re-engage the team. Some of these businesses that were pushed aside by the team.
Originally,
Yeah. And, I mean, it's good. Maybe there is hope for Columbus to stay in Columbus.
Well, then also add to the fact that the city of Austin did mention that they will not be helping out for the stadium.
Correct.
And the plan for the stadium, the famous one with no parking lot. They said no, we're not going to be building a stadium there. So after that, just what a coincidence that after that is announced, then the ownership group for Columbus like, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and talk with all these small businesses so we can try and stay. It's almost like another ploy to try to pressure Austin into.
Well, whatever the reason, I hope it works out, and I hope Columbus gets to keep their team. Obviously, I think you saw something similar with, if I'm not mistaken, the Moss brothers. They were trying to get in on the Marlins, and then that didn't work out, and then now we have MLS Miami. So I mean, that could be a bit of a good thing.
Can we just talk about how chaotic this whole thing with David Beckham and the Miami movement has been?
Brand Beckham.
You've had how many years now? 4 years to try to get an MLS, and you still don't have a name and you still don't have a logo.
Right, but I think what gets lost in this is Beckham had a clause in his contract to get the franchise for $25 million, and it was more of a layaway type of deal to secure that Miami market. And I think that kind of gets lost. People are like, "Oh, it took you 4 years," but it was more of a listen. This is Beckham's, and nobody's gonna come near this expansion.
And
bid.
I've heard it a couple times said by different people at this point on XMFC, talking about how if ownership, the current MLS ownership, had it to do over again, that they would not do that for any player, even a Beckham. That they don't.
Right. But it was the league was at a different place at that time.
Correct.
Yeah,
It was a different time, different ownership. They were pushing so hard for single entity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's the same thing for the Columbus thing too. They wouldn't have given Precourt the opt out of Columbus and move it to another location. And so it just shows though that the league has changed so drastically in such a short period of time and grown so dramatically in such a short period of time that's a testament to what they've managed to what they've been able to do and what they've managed to do with what they've had. But it also begs the question of where do we go from here? What does the future of this league look like in terms of ownership, in terms of what expansion cities and things like that? There is definitely a disparity between the lower teams, the teams at the bottom of the table, and the teams at the top of the table, not just in spending, but in how they market their teams and things of that nature.
And it's also a lot of politics. The same thing happened here with the Dynamo trying to get their stadium, and is the land the cities, is it the counties, and especially in this case, when you have a guy like Beckham, you know how bad the league wants this team in this market. I mean, there's very little leverage there. So the fact that they finally got to do something about this, hope it works out.
Yep.
Yeah. One quick thing when we get back from break, because we gotta take this.
No,
one.
you're fine.
I did want to ask a question about LA when we get back and where they could possibly be this year, not moving wise, talent wise.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys are listening to the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Network. When we get back, we'll cover that real quick about LA, and then we'll get into Down the Valley with Edson and any of the Down the Valley stuff. Their tilt against Houston Dynamo coming up this week. We get back.
Tune in to The Peel, Houston's favorite soccer live radio show focusing solely on professional soccer in the greater Houston area. The Peel airs every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time on KTXF-db The Real, available via the TuneIn app on your smartphone and on the Peel's YouTube channel.
Watching on Facebook.
Oh, well.
That's fine.
Thank you guys for tuning in tonight on this edition of the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you to everybody tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Before we left, we were talking a little bit of MLS news. There was one more thing I wanted to cover before we get to Edson's Down the Valley segment. With the moves LA has made, do you see them being a playoff contender this year? You got Kamara. You've got...
Okay, this is a prediction.
Okay.
The answer is no.
Thank God.
It's not for a lack of talent, but we've seen the same thing with New York when the Red Bulls came into the league. They had a ton of talent that they brought in, and it was a matter of getting them all to work together. That's not to say Bob Bradley isn't the type of coach that can do that, but I need to see it happen on the pitch. And I think that they struggle early in the season. I think the summer just drones on for them, and I think it just makes it really hard for them to make up that ground.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think they are this year.
All right, Edson, all you. What's up with the Valley? What's going on down there?
Well, we have a couple of interesting things. Yesterday afternoon, let's go ahead and start with, with HB Park, which is not being expanded. So
Mute him.
So CONCACAF announced yesterday afternoon that the move, which was teased by President Bert Garcia during the the Gerson Echeverri press conference, we are going to have CONCACAF Champions League down in the RGV.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be hosting the Motagua FC versus Cholos de Tijuana. CONCACAF, the official CONCACAF Champions League. I think it's the first leg of that bracket. And so it's gonna be pretty interesting. But the reason is it has to do with all the political unrest that is happening right now in Honduras. So they deemed it as it was going to be too dangerous for the players, and so they moved the Motagua game, and they also moved the Red Bulls versus Olimpia game. That one will be played in Costa Rica.
It's a weird move because they're trying to. I mean, this was being planned for a while, but I know they were trying to get it in Fort Lauderdale, that Miami area, and then out of nowhere they just pop up in RGV. I don't even know if there's 100. Is there 100 population down there? Because
It's small, but yeah, there are some Hondurans there.
but it just seems odd because you could have had it in Houston theoretically, or somewhere else where there's a bigger city.
Yeah, but we've talked about it before. Money talks, and Bert Garcia as well as Alonso Cantu. They really want to build the soccer market. To favor the tourists.
It's such a hard place to get to, though.
I bet you
would
the
think.
Dynamo put their hand in that too. They were like, no. Let's push it down there to grow that market. Because in a sense, it helps them.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think the
I don't
Dynamo
think
put
they have
anything on the table.
Yeah.
Really?
No, this was all on Bert Garcia
Lone Star
and Alonso
Entertainment.
Cantu. Exactly.
Yeah, it was all Lone Star.
Yeah, it was all Lone Star.
Yeah.
Dynamo had nothing to do with this. Remember, the Dynamo only handle the
Technical
the-
aspects.
true.
They don't get anything for the business side of it.
Yeah.
But the question came up early on in the show. Any tips for HEB Park first timers since you've been there a few times?
Okay.
Just a few.
So basically, it's not really hard
This
to
is
get
for
to.
Brian Lockridge.
It's not really hard to get to HEB Park because all you have to do is you get down on Freddy Gonzalez, you're going in and turn left, and Freddy Gonzalez ends right in front of HEB Park. So, and there's a lot of parking where you can just park. The food prices are very accessible as well. Just be sure to. Right now, there's still a lot of tickets to be sold. So might as well just grab the ones on the west hat, the west side of the stadium. That way you don't get the sun in your eyes. You do also have the way it's built. You have the $5 tickets, which are up in the stands on the west side and the corners on the east side, on the corners on the west side. You can say like the VIPs, which are on the ground level, and the middle section of HB Park on the west side. Those are going to be $10. So it's really, really accessible. If you have any other questions regarding HB Park, how to get there, where to stay, just go ahead and shoot me a tweet at down in the RGV, and I'll go ahead and help as much as I can. Needs to close the south side. Well, there's not really a need to close the south side yet. I mean, we like you all say, Harry, we have not filled the stadium yet, so there's no need to make that added expense to close the south side just for it to look good.
So I was reading.
Well, it's not even going to be televised. I mean,
Go ahead.
sorry about that.
No, go ahead. Say it.
No, I was saying the game's not even going to be televised, so
No.
Yeah.
nobody will find out.
But the
I was reading a Corey Ripken article today on Marcelo Palomino.
Okay.
And one of the quotes in there. Well, huh?
oh, no, you said Marcelo Pal. I'm excited to see this kid.
Oh, okay. I thought you were referring to how I said it, and I
No.
said it so nicely.
No.
But it was in there, and it might have been from
Nice,
Jordan.
Darby.
And it was Jordan talking about how Marcelo
Marcelo Palomino.
might end up with RGV this
Yes.
season under a USL contract, and then if he shows well, he could be with the first team. And it was also stated in there by Wilmer in a quote that first team is not off the table for him, that he has a possibility to make the first team,
Yes.
or at least make it with an MLS contract, and I think he would still get RGV minutes. Wrong team. But I was curious after seeing him at open practice and seeing how well he seemed to fit in and flow with the speed of the game, which I didn't expect for his age. What your thoughts were, what you saw, what you would think of him going to RGV.
Oh, I think it'd be a great asset for us.
So
to
who
have.
would he replace? Because he can play center mid up as an attacking mid, but he can also shift to the left wing. So who does that replace on RGV?
Well, pretty much that covers the spot that Escalante left.
Ah, see, there you go. So see, there's a hole that's being filled.
Yeah. So, he like either way, I think like I said, it'd be a great asset for him to have. Maybe off the bench, because you might. Well, we still right now we only have like 12 people on 12 players on the roster, so we don't know who exactly is going to be starting 11. And then, but either way, I think Marcelo Palomino might have a good chance to get some minutes with RGV.
Another down there, the Dynamo are going to end up playing UT Rio Grande Valley.
Yes.
Which
my alma mater.
Yes.
That's
what they're. It is tomorrow. They played them last year too, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
That's probably going to become an annual thing, I think.
That'd be cool.
I'm waiting for them to start a tournament down there, actually.
Speaking of, I'll go ahead and say it later on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, speaking of UTRGV, reminds me of the fact that the Toros, RGB Toros, they're going to be playing against. Obviously, they're going to be playing against the Dynamo, but they did. Well, not the Toros, but San Antonio FC actually released today that I believe it's on March 3rd. March 2nd or March 3rd, where they're going to be having a preseason friendly against the Toros at Toyota Field.
How do you have a friendly against your rival? That'd be like us playing Dallas in the first
Frisco.
season.
Well, the other question is if it's on the 3rd, that would kind of conflict a little bit with opening day. March 3rd is opening day for the Dynamo.
Yes.
So I would imagine it'd be because the 2nd would be a Friday, because the 3rd is a Saturday.
No, I think it's a third.
So I mean, I could see it because they've done stuff like that before, but it's just like, I mean, they're treating it like a different market. Okay, cool, whatever. But to me, that's just like, I mean, if I'm the Dynamo, I'm kind of frustrated at something like that, just a little bit, like,
Harry said it's on the 2nd.
It's on the 2nd.
Okay, so it is a Friday. Okay, there you go. See, that's so much better.
And then also Saturday, the Dynamo will be facing the Toros at HEB Park.
I'm going to be down there playing. I'm just.
Is that one?
I got a few pounds to lose.
Is that one going to end up being on YouTube? Because I know they had before. They had
Neither of them are.
No.
And the whole reason that they moved down there last year to play down there last year was because they had the streaming capabilities at HB Park.
Yes.
So.
Well, I do know
that was all talk.
The preseason in Arizona is typically on YouTube. It was last year.
It is.
Yes.
It is. It will be. Yeah, they do the whole thing on YouTube. It's a big deal for them, actually.
It is. Harry says 7:30.
Yes.
Thanks, Patrick.
Patrick, you should. If you're going down there, do it. We'll link the stream.
They have. So Harry says it's a good thing that he did remind me, but that SAFC and RGB have played against each other in the past off seasons or preseasons. So it's not anything.
It's common for them. It's because they're so close together.
That's true.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. Because they're gonna and San Antonio is actually going to be playing against UTRGB as well.
I mean, we're playing Frisco in the Desert Diamond Cup.
Oh, but that's an
we are.
invitational.
Yeah. Yeah. Look it up.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't really have a choice, do we?
I don't care.
Isn't it like
I don't care if it's preseason or not. I'm playing that. I'd be playing that like it's a regular season match.
Isn't this what
that's a Wilmer tactical?
the mobile mini Sun Cup?
He'd have to bench me.
Yeah. So
I'm not getting minutes.
Yeah. So one final thing before we kind of close this down into the RGB. I'm guessing until Saturday. Hopefully, I can have a live broadcast from HEB Park. Here's hoping. So there are rumors that we do have two, besides the 10 that the Dynamo announced that are part of the RGB roster right now. There are rumors that we do have two more coming back, which are Victor Garza, who I believe his loan was extended from Tigres, and of course you have Camilo.
Monroy.
No.
The other Camilo.
Yeah, it's Camilo. I told you. I totally forgot.
Yeah, he told me last night. I don't remember.
Yeah. Camilo Botero. Camilo Botero has also been had his it's going to be returning for 2018.
So right now, let me ask you a question before you go too much further with that. Right now, as an RGV fan, how are you feeling about your squad? Thanks, John.
That echo, though.
Dude, I can throw my voice really well.
Well, considering the fact that technically we have 12 players, 2 of those are goalkeepers, well, that's really not saying much, is because we have so many holes. I don't know. We have a lot of defenders, though. But just not. I think the only midfielders are Todd Warden. I think it's what's his name? Camilo Monroy, and Nicolas Perea. I think he's a forward. No, Nicolas Perea is a forward. So yeah, we really need some more midfielders I think the roster still got a long way to go, and they really need to at least announce some more players during this week before the Dynamo friendly.
And I've mentioned this to you probably last night. I don't remember. It's kind of all blurring
Seems
together.
legit, Harry.
I did mention to you too. Keep in mind, the Dynamo are going to have players that aren't going to make the senior roster that are going to get signed to USL contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably 3, 4, 5 players that are going to be from the Dynamo. Just in that, and then you're going to have your MLS contracted players that are going to be sent to RGV for minutes.
Now, my question is, who do you believe will not make it to the Dynamo and will be sent down to RGV?
Oh man, that's a
besides Marcelo Palomino.
There's going to be a couple midfielders for sure.
I could tell you that after preseason.
Yeah,
I can't tell you that right now.
And well, I think that's that's the difference, right?
Yep.
If you asked me that question 3 years ago before Wilmer,
hopefully.
I would be able to tell you exactly who was going to make the Dynamo roster and who wasn't going to make the Dynamo roster. You ask me that question now, it's an open game. It's anybody's opportunity. If you're in preseason camp and you show up and you show well, you've got a shot at an MLS contract. Palomino's has a legit shot at an MLS contract at 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't say that a few years ago. That to me is progress for this club.
Yes.
That to me is progress for this front office. That to me is progress, and it's showing that Nick Calba and Matt Jordan are doing their job. Shows me Wilmer Cabrera, and Edson Echeverry, Gerson Echeverry. I knew I'd get it if I took a minute. And it shows me that the technical staff, it shows me that the academy, it shows me that the USL club, everything is kind of starting to come together in a way that there's competition at every position. And it's not just competition from established guys, but it's competition from young players. It's competition from players that are getting a shot from other teams. It's great to see. It's about freaking time.
And you know what? It's the same thing that's going to happen with RGB, according to Gerson Echeverri. He mentioned that on his press conference. He says, I don't want just to have like just 11 players and then like the bench and everything else just going to be filler. No, I want like minimum 2 players per position to be able to fight for that top spot. So that way, when they come in ready to go. They know exactly what to do and things like that. And expect, according to him as well, an attacking minded team. But that obviously is not gonna ignore the defensive
Swiss cheese
side.
Defense.
Exactly, and
That
he
was
said
so
it.
bad last
He
year.
said it. He said it himself. He said, the defense was so bad. He says the defense was so bad, and most of the goals were just childish mistakes. And just hearing that from Gerson Echeverri is like, and this guy really did his homework, and I'm glad he knows what he has to fix. And that's pretty much it for Down in the Valley.
That was such and that's it, I guess, for Down in the Valley.
You guys are listening to the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports
Actually, they were
Review
listening
Media
to
Network.
Down in the Valley on KTXF-db, the real.
When we get back, we do finally have Houston Dynamo news, stuff from open practice. We got interviews we'll play.
Yeah, right on.
Diving into that, I was excited. It was a good showing, even though the weather was
kudos on the
garbage.
Fuenmayor drop.
Thank you.
There might be a tiny delay so we can hear the interview, but
That's fine, whatever.
But yeah,
We'll
when we get
figure it
back.
out. We'll work it.
Soccer in the city of Houston. The guys from the Peel break down the professional soccer teams in the greater Houston area, men's and women's, on KTXF-db The Real and YouTube every Tuesday beginning at 7 p.m. Central.
Pretty much everybody.
Welcome back, guys. You were listening to the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Media Review Media Network.
Oh,
You brought up Megan again. That's why. Thank you guys, everyone tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give us a like. Go ahead and share it and subscribe to our channel. Before we left, we were talking Dynamo Open Practice. Pretty good showing, even though the weather was garbage, sprinkled, it was cloudy.
Well, it could have been garbage.
that wasn't garbage.
Garbager.
Not at
Well-
all. No, that was beautiful weather. Actually, all things considered.
Temperature-wise, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
but I mean, the
little
rain.
bit of
That's
water.
true.
It wasn't even rain. That
Yeah,
was
no,
like a
what-
mist.
It was that
No, what I was
annoying-
going to say is like the rain was able to stay away
That's true.
for the duration of open practice because once open practice ended, everything ended. That's when it started pouring.
So we had heard discussing with a couple of people that there was a chance, even though they said on Twitter that they weren't going to close it, that there was a chance. It was kind of close. Hairy moments in that morning because of how much water had came down.
It was raining sideways about 2 hours.
I mean, you
before?
saw it where we were standing in the
Yeah.
media area. How deep
God, it
I
was
was
so
sinking
bad.
into that grass. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
like my shoes were like that far down. Like
For-
I bet that they did it on purpose.
probably.
for the media guys, oh,
Yeah.
guarantee that's the case. Well, you notice they didn't have that problem where all the fans were standing.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So I know it was kind of like a show and tell. Wilmer didn't put him through a ton of stuff, but it was enough to see what some of these younger guys had to offer. I mean, we already know what we have in Elise. Kyoto wasn't there. We'll get into that. But, we already know what we have with a bunch of these other guys. One guy that did stand out to me the most was our draft pick, Max Steves. He was around.
Holy moly!
He's huge.
Yeah, he's
what?
tall.
What'd you say he was? 6'3", 208 or something like that.
208.
6'4", 208.
Yeah, so he's probably 6'3" and a half, 208. But he's huge.
Massive.
Yeah. We were joking. He looks like a rugby player. Like he
does.
literally just walked off the. And then we went and watched rugby that night.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
We were like, no, really, he does look like a rugby player. Like legit pro rugby player.
huge.
Yeah, he's amazingly huge. But you know what? To be fair, the Dynamo need a player like that.
They do.
And I have a feeling because he fills a void that they don't have anybody that fills that role. I have a feeling he has a chance at an MLS contract.
You think he ends up being like the closer forward?
Sure,
them?
why not?
Not a starter.
Yeah, he's a guy that can come in for set pieces in the late dying minutes of a game, but I think I think
he's
he has,
Especially when games are really close.
I think we're not giving him enough credit, right? I think he's the type of player with how he looked. The one thing that big players don't tend to do, strong players, they don't tend to turn defenders. He did that. He was turning professional defenders with the ball in the air, no less. And so what I think I see out of him, I think I see a player that is capable of playing at the MLS level. And if he's capable of playing at MLS level, does that mean he gets an MLS contract? If he gets an MLS contract and he's playing these at, closing minutes of the match, who's to say that if Morrow needs a rest or whatever, that Wilmer doesn't give him a start here and there?
Speaking of Morrow,
I'd love to see him against fresh defenders. I want to see him wreck Frisco.
And you know what? With wingers like Elise and Kyoto, serving him balls inside.
He'll be one-on-one with defenders in the box.
Yes.
I mean, he's going to have such an opportunity to knock some headers into the goal.
Speaking of Morrow, did anybody tell Morrow that this was an open practice? It's really just for the fans.
No, he's going all out because it's his chance, and he knows this is his opportunity to be that guy, to do that thing.
I'm pretty
to
sure
raise
it was
that
Morrow
cup.
was the one who shredded a defender off him, just pretty much.
Nemo did it too. Nemo did it too
Yeah,
later in the
he did
match,
too, yeah.
or later in the scrimmages. Oh, that was
we saw. We
fantastic.
got to see Memo do it. I didn't recall seeing Morrow, but yeah, Mames was the one that was also
Regardless.
one of those that was completely working.
I like the intensity in practice, and I'm
Yeah.
curious to see when they do come back here for practice after the preseason ends.
After all the bumps and bruises and everybody's sore and tired.
Yeah,
and,
to see how if there's that same
intensity is
intensity.
still there, yeah.
And I know Wilmer's going to ask it of him. Wilmer's not the guy or type of coach that's going to let somebody back down.
Were you out there last year for practice for preseason, Victor?
For RGV?
No, for Dynamo.
Preseason?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
is this the same intensity that was there last season? Because I didn't get a chance to really watch as closely as I would have liked last season.
I don't remember there being an open. Well, It might have been
not open practice. I mean, just practices in general.
Well, we don't really get to see any of the
that's
practice.
Right. It's just the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Hopefully they open that up this year. Never mind. Then that totally changes my train of thought.
Okay.
So I would love to tell you, but I can't.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
So Patrick says, and it's one of the things that I think it was you that somebody of us commented it. The fact that Senderos has that leadership,
very vocal.
Yes. And not only is he vocal, but he's got the hand signals to tell them, "Hey, you have to be here, and you have to be here."
Well, there's two things that come from
experience
from him. It's the experience, but it's not just the experience. You can have experience and not gain that. It's the experience at the top level, at the elite top flight. You learn those types of things because the fact is that when you're a veteran player in a top flight, you have to learn how to make sure that your other players are keeping their end of their end of things up, because otherwise you're having to cover for them. And as an older player, you don't want to do that anymore.
Terry wants to know your thoughts on Chris Seitz.
I did not see very much. I mean, he was there, he was playing, but I was really focused on attackers. I really didn't watch him that much.
Nelson,
Nelson was making save after save.
Yeah.
Does he go to RGV or does he stay up here?
I think it's all dependent on what happens with that.
I think what happens with the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, and not only that.
And I think there are other players that are kind of in that same boat too. I mean, there are 3 numbers that are currently available on the Dynamo list of jersey numbers. And I think they have those set aside for 3 specific players if they come back. If those players come back, it changes things dramatically as far as who gets an MLS contract, who stays up, who goes down, that sort of thing. If those players don't come back, those are holes that get filled.
So Darby says players were largely ignoring him, as in Senderos. If he wants to be effective, he needs to be a teammate or a coach.
I think it comes with a full preseason with players, though. They'd only really had 1-2 practices before that together. Hadn't really had a chance to kind of learn.
No, and he only had a few last year too.
Exactly. He give him time. I think you're going to see the benefit of that playing off, over time. I think the other thing is you watch the other veteran players and how they respond to him. Younger players take notice of how those veteran players respond to him. Players like Beasley, players like Arturo Alvarez, if they take what he's saying and they do what he's saying and they follow his direction, I guarantee you players like Memo, players like Kyoto, players like Elise, players like Palomino, they're going to take notice and they're going to start doing the same thing.
It's not that it just dawned on me, but we actually have a ton of veterans experience, at least on this team, with Senderos, with Arturo Alvarez, Beasley, Chris Seitz. I mean, he's not young either.
Yeah, correct.
And Saren.
Yeah, Darwin Saren.
Darwin Saren.
I mean, guy's been in the league a while too.
Yeah.
There's a ton of experience on this team, mixed with a ton of youth.
Yeah.
Alexander's been in the league a while.
Yeah, that too. I keep thinking he's a lot younger than what he actually is. Like, I'm thinking he's like 23, and
he's
guys
like 27, 28.
Yeah. What were your thoughts? We had touched on it in your segment, but on Palomino at practice.
Like I said, and I when I asked him the question, I framed it this way. He was able to flow with the practice. He was able to flow in the scrimmages. I think he's adapting to the speed of the game at the pro level, the speed of the game with these players that have a little bit more intensity, have a little bit more athleticism, have a little bit more experience. And I think that's good for him to be able to see what the difference is and what that next step is actually going to take. I think he's capable of it. I've heard that he is basically a cross between Luka's talent level and Memo's work ethic. And if you can give me a player with that level of work ethic and that level of talent, this kid's got a bright future as long as he keeps his head on straight.
Let me pose this question to you guys. Because we see it with Major League Baseball when they rush a player along too fast. We saw it with, and I hate to use this analogy, but we saw it with Freddie Adu.
Yeah.
Came into the league really fast and burnt out really fast.
Yeah.
Goes over to Europe and just falls apart. I guess it's kind of a fear to me.
You don't want to hype him too much because you're concerned that he's not going to ever live up to the hype and it's going to ruin him as a player.
Or the other way. I mean, he lives up to the hype, but he can't handle it. His talent.
So I think the difference now, because you're talking about players that are previous, right?
Correct.
You're talking about previous generations of players. The difference is now MLS is structured to be able to provide that support. He has veteran players around him. He has Memo, who's been through this process. He has Wilmer to help him through the process. He's got Gershon Echeverry to help him through the process. The thing is, and it's a big difference, when you have professional players that are willing to help you along, willing to show you the ropes, willing to also teach you how to be a professional, it makes a huge difference. I feel like Luka had that opportunity, but because he wasn't getting minutes in RGV, that's why he left. He wasn't getting minutes.
So where do you guys want to see Marcelo this year? Do you want to see him in RGV, or do you want to see him?
Ask me after preseason.
I think you gotta. If you believe in him that much, you think he's gonna be that good. I think you have to sign him, and you gotta. He's not gonna be in your first team, so obviously you send him down to RGV.
Yeah. But maybe you call him in for Open Cup. Maybe you give him if somebody gets injured.
And it also depends on him.
One or two matches.
I mean, I'd imagine he'd be ready to make that jump.
Yeah.
Sign a professional contract, but also depends on him. And I think you got the staff in place with Wilmer Cabrera to be able to guide him along at just the right pace.
Where would you like to see him this year?
I think I like to see him at RGV and see what he does there, and
yeah.
I think that's where you see what he has there. And
I think he has to follow. But he may be good, but he has to follow the process.
Correct.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's just like a trial player.
Of course,
he's not. I don't know how much of an opportunity they're really willing to give him until we see him actually give him a contract.
Yeah. Well, but like I said, I mean, there's players that there are spots open right now, that players have not signed contracts for. That if they do sign contracts, then it changes things dramatically. But if those players don't sign contracts, that's an open roster spot on the senior team. Now, that's not to say you can't send him down for spurts down at RGV with Gershon. That's not to say that he doesn't come up for Open Cup. That's not to say that he doesn't maybe play a couple of matches here when the Hondurans are out, or when the El Salvadorans are out, or whatever it may be. I mean, we have international call-ups we're going to have to deal with. Why not?
So we do got to take a break. When we get back, we'll cover Alex's question. He wants to know: do you set a mandate that he gets minutes this year, whether it be RGV or with the senior club?
We'll talk about that after the break.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Reports on Tomas. I do want to touch on that, and then we'll talk Kyoto's illness, and then we'll hit up our player interviews. Thank you guys again for listening to the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Media Review Network.
Do you love soccer in the city of Houston? The guys from the Peel break down the professional soccer teams in the greater Houston area, men's and women's.
Hi, I'm Andrew Wenger, and you're listening to The Peel.
Welcome back. Thank you guys again for listening to the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you everyone tuning in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Go ahead and give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Before we left, we were talking Dynamo Open Practice. Some of the players that we were kind of high on. One player in particular that was missing, Kyoto. Missed practice due to illness, probably the flu, like everybody else has here in Houston.
He's had it for a few days.
That's what Wilmer said today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Flu. Yeah. But before we...
It's nasty stuff, by the way. If you haven't got your flu shot, go get your flu shot.
Now they're saying there's a second strain that's worse than the first.
Worse than the first.
Worse than the first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Continue.
Oh, Lord.
But Alex asked before we went on break, do you set a mandate for Palomino to get minutes? And I say yeah, either through Open Cup or RGV. I mean, if it's RGV, it's higher. If it's Open Cup, get him to start in the early rounds. Is it me personally?
I know.
You muted him, by the way. You're a jerk.
I'll preface this by saying I think I've heard Matt Jordan say that they're not about mandating minutes,
and you never should.
Yeah,
so,
and that's what I was.
Well,
I mean,
we'll start there, and then.
I mean, this has to be merit based. If if you put in a mandate, then that gives Marcelo Palomino some slack that I don't have to work as hard because I'm guaranteed minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you don't have a mandate, you make him work for that for those minutes. And maybe if you say if what they're saying is correct, that he's got Memo's work ethic as well, it'll probably be more beneficial to him to not have any mandates.
I don't think it's hard to put a number of minutes on it. I think it all depends on what level he's at, and we don't know what level he's at. That's why you send him down to RGV. You kind of see where he levels off with the rest. But in the sense of with the Dynamo, when you're building around him, at least by the time that he's RGV, you think you'd kind of work around him because he's going to be your future when he goes up to the first team. Or, you start integrating him in that sort of playing style that Wilmer wants at the first team with RGV. But again, we saw what happened with Lucatero, and that didn't really happen there when that was supposed to be the plan, or you thought that would be the plan. So that's where that wrench is thrown in. It all depends on what RGV is about. Are they about results and bringing in people, or are they about developing players?
Well, the fact is that Gerson Echeverri did mention that just because we're going to be developing players does not mean.
Well, you can do both.
I mean, just like New York Red Bulls 2. New York Red Bulls 2 has already won the USL, and they're a development team for the Pink Cows.
So I'm gonna throw a caveat to what you were saying, Victor, which is if the kid is going to be a professional, he better as hell get used to not being told how many minutes he's going to be able to play.
Yeah.
You have to be able to compete for your spot no matter how good you are, no matter what level you are, no matter how young you are, no matter how important to the team you are. If you are not capable of winning your spot, you don't deserve your spot. It's as simple as that. The mentality that the kid deserves minutes simply because he's got talent and he's got a good work ethic, that doesn't fly with me. Prove it on the pitch.
Alex does say there's also the typical reluctance to allow young players to get minutes when results are on the line.
I don't think Echeverri is going to have a problem with that at all.
And
he's not the type
he says
of
you
coach.
can't get experience and play if you don't get the minutes. But you can do both. Sometimes there needs to be an emphasis on getting them on the field.
Yeah, that the responsibility there. Well, I suppose it falls on either Matt Jordan or Nick Cabwa. If you're looking down at RGV and you're seeing he doesn't get any minutes, it's your duty to go in there and check and say, hey, well, what's going on here? Why isn't he on the field? And you take it from there. But you can't.
They can't dictate to RGV how RGV should handle themselves.
Correct.
They really shouldn't. It's just RGV is RGV. Let them do their thing.
Well, the thing is, basically, it's the Dynamo already control. Like we've said it before.
They control the technical aspects, but at the same time, Echeverri has to have some leash to be able to direct that team the way he's going to direct that team. He's a coach. He is still his own man. Regardless of everything else, he is still his own man.
If anything, the only thing that's going to be similar is going to be the formations or the attack, because he said it himself. Like you want so that way, like if the Dynamo calls players from RGV up to Dynamo, they'll be comfortable with the system over there. The same thing the opposite way. If you send from the Dynamo down here, they'll be comfortable with the system because it's the same one.
You mentioned Echeverri had said this to you that he wants to have competition at every position. He wants to have at least two players at every position. I think that ties into the same thing. He's not a coach that wants to see a player a player that is being given minutes simply because he's being told to give him minutes. Mm-hmm. He's a coach that's going to want to see that player earn those minutes. And I think the fact is, if you're giving players minutes just simply because they are who they are, it demeans the rest of the players on the pitch. Because they're not being afforded those same opportunities. And so why am I, as a USL player, why am I, as Justin Bilyeu, going to go out there and give my full effort when you're giving Marcelo Palomino minutes because the organization's demanding he get minutes at RGV. So I think at the end of the day, he's not going. I trust Jordan and Wilmer and Calba enough to know they're not going to demand minutes, a set number of minutes per season for Palomino. They're going to let. I think they trust Echeverry. The difference is they actually trust Echeverry. I think they trust Echeverry, and I think Wilmer trusts Echeverry to actually decide whether the kid deserves minutes or not. And I don't think, based on what I know about Echeverry, that Echeverry is going to have a problem giving the kid minutes. If he deserves those minutes, he's going to give it to him. It has nothing to do with how young or how old he is. If a player deserves it, just like with Wilmer, if a player deserves those minutes, if he shows it in the practice field, he's going to earn the minutes, period.
Yeah.
So how close were Cabrera and Junior Gonzalez? Because I don't know if I...
The only thing I believe that Junior Gonzalez worked with him for a little bit in Chivas USA. I believe that's where the connection is. Other than that, they weren't really that close. It just has that past.
Yeah, because that's the vibe I kind of got just from. I mean, it just maybe that they're both Colombians, but I mean, Echeverry was here last week, and it almost reminds me of whenever Wilmer was here when Coyle was the coach, and that there's that same philosophy. You think between RG, so that I think somewhat of a good sign, but
absolutely,
we'll see where it ends up.
Well, they were coaches together at somewhere that Wilmer knows him. So there's a personal
I think it was with the under 17s.
Yeah, one of the U.S. men's youth teams.
Yes.
Yeah, so they've got experience together as coaches in the same staff.
I think
that helps a long way.
In one of the first interviews that he did after he was announced, he mentioned that even after that, like when he was the coach at Seton Hall, he would still have communication with Wilmer Cabrera, and so it wasn't one and done kind of thing. It's been a close relationship that they've ever had, and it's just now they're working under the same team.
So Alex says that what he's trying to actually say, I guess we kind of missed his actual point, is that if all things are equal between him and his competition, that they should not restrict him simply because he's a young player. They should give him minutes if he is showing that he is worth and if he has earned those minutes, which is what I was saying before.
Yeah.
If you earn them, you get them. That's how they should approach that.
A couple more things before we get to the interviews.
Cisco, I can't possibly imagine Wilmer
I don't
taking
think so
any
either.
tips from Coyle when he was here for preseason.
No.
Tomas Martinez.
I think he'd be surprised.
Expectations for him, and what did you see at him at practice?
He looked more comfortable.
Yes.
And that is a big change.
It's probably the first thing I noticed.
Yeah, he looked very comfortable. He looked at ease. He looked like he belonged, which I think is something that I wasn't able to say when he first started. And I've said this time and time again. He needed a full offseason with this team. He needed preseason with this team.
Yeah.
I think he's got big things in store for him with the way this team lines up, with the way this team plays, with the tactical approach that they're going to have. They're going to rely on him for possession. They're going to rely on him for springing players behind defenders. I think he's in for a big season. I don't know what big season really means in the grand scheme of things, but I do think he's in for a big season, and that means good things for the Dynamo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard the way he just kind of came in mid-season last year. I know Wilmer also, he didn't want to just throw him in right away, and he kind of halted the process a little bit. It took longer than maybe what it would have normally to bring him into the team. I think it was like mid-August or something like that when he was finally made
especially
his,
when you
debut.
had Alex and he was kind of giving signs like he didn't really like him.
And then when he brought him in, he made him such a big part of the lineup, but he hadn't had a full preseason with players. I think that changes differently. But
there's a chemistry that builds between players on the pitch when they have a preseason together, when they have a chance to kind of learn how each other plays. There's a certain understanding of this player is going to be here positionally because they know when I have the ball that I'm going to be looking to feed them here versus here. I'm going to feed it to his feet versus feeding it to his head. I'm going to feed it to his feet versus feeding it to his chest. I'm going to try a through ball instead of over the top, or I'm going to try an over the top instead of a through ball. These are the types of things that you start to pick up, the tendencies you start to pick up as a player for your fellow teammates in preseason, that when you come in midseason, it's really hard to pick up because these players are already playing at a speed and a level that you're not accustomed to because he hadn't really played much prior to that.
Francisco asked you, Victor, why did they go away from the front three of Kyoto, Kubo, and Elise when it was working so well?
I think probably has to do with playing. Well, part of it was international, right? I think that's when it first started breaking up.
And then it was international
Kyoto was
followed by injuries, which just piled on top of each other.
Right. So I would start there, but then I think it eventually is just off-field issues. I think is kind of where it started coming in a little bit. How I don't want to say motivated, but how committed certain players were to the team. And I think that also influenced the quote-unquote rotation policy, kind of forced that to happen. And, I think it would have been nice to see, but I think you also had the same thing previously before Wilmer was here, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we could it honestly should have been, right? Bruin, Barnes, and Cubo, and we never saw it implemented the same way. So, ultimately it didn't work out, and I think at the end just didn't work out.
Yep.
Do you believe also it has to do with the mentality of Wilmer Cabrera, who tends to do a lot of these rotations to make sure that the competition, is pretty much constant between the start
that's what
quote unquote
that's what
starting
he says.
11.
He says obviously it's to keep competition. I think it's hard to tell you without knowing what goes on in practice, day in, day out, because that obviously dictates how he plans his team on the weekend.
Absolutely.
But I do think there were issues there that kind of forced his hand, and it opened opportunities for other players, and that's where kind of Morrow emerged to get his chance. But again, when Morrow would take the field, he wouldn't pull himself away from Kubo to where he became a solidified starter, which is why you kind of had to go back to Kubo. And then, Kyoto the same way, when he came back from his injury, there were flashes there of the player that he kind of was at the beginning of the season, but he was hesitant. He wouldn't go after players the way that he probably should have. And again, we just talked about the minutes together. They just didn't have it.
So do you see with Morrow, I mean, there's no doubt this is Morrow's position to lose now. It's not about his position to win. It's his position to lose. Do you see that this is the opportunity?
Well, I think it was his position coming into the season anyways, because the way it ended, he was a starter. So.
Agreed. But what I mean by that is there is not at this moment there's not that competition for that slot, right?
Yeah.
There is. Kyoto could technically slot into that slot. Elise could slot into that slot. But at the end of the day, the preferred top three is going to be Elise, Kyoto, and Morrow. But what I'm trying to get at is, do you think with that consistency for the Dynamo and for Morrow in particular, do you think that provides him that final boost that he needs to reach that level to become that top level striker that this team really needs him to be?
I think that'll help because continuity. I mean,
continuity is a big thing.
Minutes. The more they play together, the more they'll get to know each other. And I think, again, that may be the reason why the other it didn't work the other way with Cubo in that spot. I think I don't think Morrow's the type of guy that kind of lets up. I think.
That intensity he showed in open practice.
But he does need to keep getting minutes in that sense because, again, last year it was alternating between Cubo, between him, and Morrow needs a little bit more time to adjust to that position because Cubo knew when he was in that position, what was his job, what he had to do, and Morrow still had to kind of adjust. Because remember, he was shifting from that to the wing. He was in the mentality where he just wanted playing time.
Yep.
So he was willing to just kind of be thrown into a fire, but I think that's what he needs minutes, and then maybe learn what it is that Wilmer wants him to do
from
at
that position. Yeah, agreed, 100%. I was
just
curious what you
we're gonna have to cut out those interviews because Frisco.
We'll put them up on the site.
Yeah, Cisco asked a really good question. Do you foresee a situation happening with Kyoto the way he did with being the driver?
No, with Andrew Driver. He's referring to Andrew Driver.
Good.
And that when Driver came in, that he came in lights out, and then after his injury, he just wasn't the same. I'm gonna throw that to Victor. I've got an answer to that, and it's a pretty steadfast answer, but I'll throw it to
Alex
Victor
seems
first.
to think this might be Romel's last year, and we'll take your
It's hard to tell. I mean, and Wilmer kind of hinted to this earlier in the week where he said player that doesn't want to be here, we only want players that they want to be here. Players that don't want to be here, we're not going to have on our team. And some of the talk in the offseason, at least the murmurs, were that he had kind of asked, or that those rumors of LA were coming from his camp. And you would think, right? Because I think the quote was from down in a paper in Honduras.
Yep.
I think there's something there that stemmed from him not playing in the final.
Well, there were moments. So I sit in 102, and that's perfect to be able to see the subs warming up. And there were moments when he was not called into the match. There were 2 or 3 matches in particular where he threw a fit on the sideline. He threw a temper tantrum in front of me on the sideline.
Yeah.
Romel,
because he wasn't called into the match.
And that's the other thing with Romel. He's not the most. He's got a short temper.
He is very short.
So that kind of plays into where that goes this season. I believe he had like the one, or he was about to have the one stint in Europe, but then he got sent back. So that kind of brings that issue up.
So here's the thing, right? So let's just say, and Alex kind of hinted at this. Let's just say, for rumor's sake, LA has the top spot in the allocation order. He's rumored to want to go to LA. So do you trade Romel for the top allocation spot plus some allocation money? Do you then turn around and sign Rubio Rubin, who plays left wing, can play left wing, which also opens the door to sign Palomino to an MLS contract to be able to send Palomino back and forth? Just curious. What would you do? I mean, Victor, thoughts on that?
I think Romel's a really good player. And obviously there's a dynamic that him and Elise bring that it's going to be very hard to replicate. And not just them together, but obviously the chemistry they have, the experience with the national team. But again, I don't know what's going on closed doors be able to tell you.
I think you said it best. If a player doesn't want to be here, then we don't want them here either. It was as simple as that. That's not his exact words, but I mean that's basically what he was saying.
Yeah.
Wilmer? Yeah.
And so, all things being equal, if the player doesn't want to be here, I'm not saying that Romel.
And I don't know
saying that Romel doesn't want to be here.
But I mean, some of this is just. I think somebody tweeted at me the other day where they were like, "Oh, he's been sick since the conference final." But I mean, I think it's an issue you have to bring up because the Dynamo haven't really built up the best credibility over the last season.
Correct. Correct.
When Torres was left out of that Vancouver trip, we were told it was a technical decision. And the same thing. So when you bring that out. And Kyoto's left out, and he's reported sick.
Absolutely.
I think you have an obligation to question it.
Absolutely, and I think we do kind of see. We will see it through preseason what happens with Kyoto. If Kyoto doesn't end up coming back for 2, 3, 4 more weeks until really the start of the season, then that signals to me that he's not as committed as he needs to be, and. That's going to signal, in my opinion, should signal to Jordan and to Wilmer and to Calba and whoever else that, hey, this player probably needs to go elsewhere. He needs a shot somewhere else because he's clearly not going to give it everything here.
So we're going to throw this to a very, very, very short break. And when we get back, we'll have 5 minutes to talk about probably the biggest news out of the week.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
You flip that sheet over.
We had to cut out like half the show.
Holy moly. Alrighty.
You guys are listening to the P on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. When we get back, we will talk
Cubo. What a great segue.
And you're listening to The Peel.
Bueno, soy Alejandro Mayor y me están escuchando por
Chef is cooking tonight.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in to tonight's episode of the Peel on KTXF-db, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. I'm not going to read the rest of this because we want to get into this news. We filmed last week's episode probably about 12 hours too early.
Yes.
In case anybody was sleeping under a rock, Cubo was moved out.
12 hours too early. You're kidding me. It was like 4 hours too early. We just held off for 4 hours. No, yeah, it was crazy.
No.
David, my friend, David. No.
Messi or nothing.
So Sean, you've got the deets on that. So
the deets on Messi to Houston Dynamo?
No.
Hashtag confirmed.
The Cubo transfer?
Yeah,
I have the deets on the Cubo transfer. Boy, you don't know me well at all. So Cubo was transferred. Basically as I understand it, the call came in, or actually, as I understand, I take that back. Cubo actually approached the front office and let them know, hey, if you guys get an offer from XYZ Club, Pumas, that I'd be willing to accept it. And at the same time, Jordan's phone is basically blowing up with Pumas basically calling and saying, hey, we are interested. And then apparently paperwork happened very, very, very fast.
Very
fast. And then the Dynamo were actually waiting on the paperwork to clear through the front office of MLS in terms of transfer-related paperwork. And at the same time, media guys for the Dynamo are sitting there waiting to tweet out the news, and Cubo shows up on their TV at halftime in a Pumas jersey giving an interview, and Univision is basically like, hey, can you confirm this guy's being transferred? And he's like, well, I can't, but you can look at your TV.
Yes.
Pretty much is at this point.
So basically, at 9 o'clock, Pumas was playing Los Bravos de Ciudad Juárez for the Copa MX, and at halftime, that's where they confirmed that Cubo was Pumas' new striker. He had on his shirt, and he did an interview saying that he was going to work hard. And one of his biggest traits is how hard he works.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Cisco has it up there too. No, don't talk about it. This is not an NFL podcast.
No, not that.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
When has Cubo ever had hard work ethic in his life?
He's got to please the fans that hate him. Nobody wanted him.
Hold on. No. He had a pretty solid work ethic actually when he was motivated to play for the Mexican national team.
How'd that work out for him?
He got minutes with the Mexican national team.
Oh, that worked out for him.
Oh, and here's another thing.
He's playing for Club Leon now, so not Club Leon. Sorry, Pumas now. So
here's another thing. So that weekend,
although for less money,
in Liga MX play, so he didn't play that game, but he stayed after the game ended. He stayed and started like training.
It's all for show.
That's what I'm saying.
Until he gets mixed in with the wrong crowd, like the first time down in Mexico. I don't see it.
Well,
the guy's done nothing but disappoint.
You were saying that a lot of the Pumas fans on Twitter and Facebook and whatever were not exactly happy at the news.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Which I find surprising. I mean, I do understand but that at least signifies they're at least watching MLS play, wouldn't you say?
No, because
was that based on his minutes with Mexican national team?
I think it's
that and Cruz Azul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that what he did in Cruz Azul as well.
But they were so excited for Landon freaking Donovan, who came from MLS for Club Leon.
I would say that's a different team and a different fan base, and it's also
because
it's also a different player.
Yeah,
it's a different player because it's a player that they respect, despite the fact that he's coming out of retirement. You hear the USA chants. For as much as the rivalry is there, that Mexican fans respect Landon Donovan.
I got you.
And it's weird. I don't know if you'd ever see that here. Bring over a Mexican player and fans start shouting Mexico. But
now let me ask you this, because I know Sean noticed it. I kind of noticed it. It almost seemed like a weight has been lifted off the staff and everything that he was not out there Saturday.
That was as much to do with him as it had to Carly Lloyd.
Exactly. I mean,
same type of thing, same type of situation.
Is it one of those? The Dynamo are kind of like, we can finally move on from this. We can finally do something different and not have to worry about, well, Cubo has these expectations from fans, or, we spent this much money, but he's only producing this much. Like,
I would say that you bring up the Carly Lloyd thing, and I think there's faults in both sides, on both ends.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that can be overlooked if you're looking at this fairly. But obviously, in these cases, I think it has to do a little bit more with the players, at least on the Cubo end of it. he wasn't a disciplined player, and that was rubbing the wrong way in the locker room. And the relationship with the coach wasn't. It was damaged, and I don't think it was. I don't think it was going to get fixed. So I think I'm actually surprised it kind of came into the preseason, but
it surprises me.
It could have gotten fixed, but I think it would have taken a good enough effort. It would have
taken an effort by both parties, really.
Yes.
But what I was going to say, it surprises me that from what I've heard, he lost the confidence from Wilmer, considering he was Wilmer's guy to some extent. He was a Wilmer
I think
player.
he was Wilmer's guy at Chivas USA. And I mean,
well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying,
I think
right?
Wilmer just totally lost faith in him.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
By the end of it, I think he did. Yeah.
Well, I think when he came in, Wilmer wanted him on the team because he knew what type of player he was, and as the season went on, the whole season went on. I think
as he got to see the entire picture of what Cubo was at this point.
Yeah.
So how much did we talk about the money?
No,
not yet. But hold on, before we get there, this is good stuff right here. So I had heard, and I've said this openly multiple times, that one of Cubo's biggest issues, and it began when he went to Liga MX the first time, with Chivas Guadalajara, that he picked up a lot of off-the-field bad habits from some of the veteran players at Chivas Guadalajara. And when he came back, he was not the same player that he was when he went there. When he left from Chivas USA and
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So,
that's what I've heard.
And that, I think that kind of speaks to,
and that's the difference. That's normal in Mexico.
Absolutely. But
here,
if he couldn't get Wilmer to buy back into him, a coach that, gave him a real opportunity here, I feel like his career is not headed in a good direction at all.
Yeah.
Mexico or otherwise. I just don't. And it's such a shame. But to recap, we purchased him essentially for roughly $5.5 to $6 million. We transferred him for roughly 1.9 to 2.5 million.
Yeah.
So it's at a $4 million loss, but trust me, the club is more than willing to absorb that $4 million loss.
And
I think something that gets lost is
the
AEG was the majority owner when the sale happened, and so I don't know how much of Gabriel Brenner's money is actually
probably very little of it.
Right. So I think that's another thing that gets overlooked in this whole deal.
That's a very
and
good
not
point
only
too.
that, just the fact that we clear a DP slot is also beneficial for the Dynamo.
That's a huge thing too, clearing that DP slot. I wish we had another international slot right now, though.
And
that's
the reason,
I wish we had another half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But
we could go for another hour, really.
Just real quickly, so Terry Garcia asks why was he worth so much money? You gotta have to also realize
that's
that
a whole nother show.
That you're dealing with Jorge Vergara, and he's if he's gonna do a purchase or he's gonna sell somebody, he's probably gonna want to sell him a little bit more than what he's worth.
Gotta do a couple things.
Do your housekeeping.
Yes. Thank you, Victor, for coming on tonight. We got to do it again. No, we can't do 3 hours tonight. I got to be up at 3:30.
Make it 3 hours viral.
I got to be up at 3:30.
If we go 3 hours, Edson, you got to start getting here at 6 o'clock instead of 6:15.
But again, thank you everyone for tuning in to tonight's edition of The Peel on KTXF-db, The Real, part of the Texas Sports Review Media Network. Thank you everyone that tuned in on Facebook and YouTube as well. Go ahead and give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to our channel to get notified when The Peel and Down in the Valley go live. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at ThePeel05. Like us on Facebook at ThePeel2005. Be sure to check out our website that was built by Sean and probably about to get redone. ThePeelLive.com.
We're about to redo it.
Be sure to also follow Edson and his show Down in the Valley on YouTube and follow him on Twitter at Down in the RGV. Lastly, check out our friends at Dynamo Theory. You can follow them at Dynamo Theory on Twitter and get all your Houston Dynamo and Dash news at DynamoTheory.com. And also be sure to tune in next week at 7 o'clock.
Saturday.
Go Sabercats.
Yes, go Sabercats. That was fun.
Thank you, Grant Cole, for having us out.
It was definitely fun.
That was fantastic.
Yes. Audio
we
sounded
didn't get to
good.
talk about that because we had so many audio
we dove
problems.
right into it.
Well, it was the audio problems that started it. Not to pin the blame on you, but
no, it wasn't me. That was Wi-Fi for once. It wasn't me.
Oh, was it Wi-Fi? Oh, that sucks. All right.
Of
Anyways,
course.
let's go.
Do you want to announce the other news for KTXF, or you want to wait on it?
Let's wait till it's confirmed. 100%.
Okay. Oh, like Dynamo
Probably
news?
like next week.
Down in the RGV.com. Don't forget.
I will just say that KTXF is expanding. There's a lot happening. Stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter. Follow at KTXF-db, The Real on Twitter. you will not be disappointed by what's coming. It's going to be a fantastic season.
Yes. Again, thank you guys for tuning in.
Bye. Forever Orange.
A little late.